So you want to break into one of the hottest jobs in tech, right? Data engineering. It's in demand, it pays well, but where do you even start? Well, that's exactly what we're going to tackle. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to lay out your personal, step-by-step roadmap to becoming a data engineer in 2025. Let's do this. First things first, what is a data engineer? I love this analogy. They're the architects and the plumbers of the data world. They're the ones building all the systems that collect, store, and clean up data so it can actually get to where it needs to go. And here's the bottom line. Without them, data scientists can't do their magic. Analysts are just staring at empty screens. All those cool dashboards everyone loves, they don't exist. Seriously, data engineers are the absolute backbone of the entire data operation. So, think of what we're doing here as your personal roadmap, your guide. We're going to walk through every single stage from the very basics all the way to you landing that first job. This is the clear path, no more guessing what to learn next. Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we'll cover the data engineer's quest, what they actually do. Then we'll get into your foundational toolkit. After that, it's all about mastering core engineering skills. Next, and this is a big one, we'll talk about how to build your project portfolio. And finally, the grand prize, landing your first job. All right, let's dive right in. Section 1, the data engineer's quest. Before you can become one, you've got to know what the day-to-day really looks like, right? What's the actual mission? So, what's on the daily to-do list? Well, it's a lot. They're building data pipelines to move and clean up messy data. They're the masters of databases, both SQL and NoSQL. They build those massive central data warehouses. Think Snowflake or BigQuery. When the data gets huge, they bring out the big guns like Spark. And pretty much all of this happens on cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, or GCP. Oh, and they automate everything they can with tools like Airflow. It's a super hands-on technical role. Okay, every quest needs the right gear. And that brings us to our next section, your foundational toolkit. These are the absolute non-negotiables, the skills you just have to master before you can even think about the bigger stuff. And look, the good news is this doesn't have to take forever. We can actually map this out into a pretty focused 3-month plan. Month 1, you nail the foundations, Python and SQL. Month 2, you level up to Spark and get your feet wet with the cloud. And then in month 3, it's all about putting it into practice, building projects and getting ready for those interviews. It's going to be a sprint, for sure, but it's totally doable. All right, let's talk about your first tool. It's Python. And let me be super clear, this isn't a nice to have, it's mandatory. Why? Because everything a data engineer does, moving data, cleaning data, transforming it, is done with code. And Python is the language that powers all of that. You've got to know it. So what exactly do you need to learn in Python? Start with the absolute basics, variables, loops, functions. Then you'll want to get your head around the basics of OOP, or object-oriented programming. After that, it's about the practical stuff, working with files, pulling data from APIs, and then you dive into the key libraries that every data person uses, Pandas and NumPy. That's your checklist. Okay, I need you to lean in for this one because it is so important. You will use SQL every single day. I'm not kidding. If you learn only one thing from this, let it be this. SQL is your most important skill. It is the language of data, period. And we're talking more than just a simple select star. You need to master joins so you can pull data together from different places. You absolutely need to learn window functions for doing complex analysis. You'll want to use things like CTEs, which help keep your complicated queries clean and readable. And this is a big one. You have to learn performance tuning, how to make your queries run fast. A slow query literally costs a company time and money. You also got to understand that not all databases are built for the same thing. You'll mainly deal with 2 types. On one hand, you have OLTP, or online transaction processing databases. Think about the database behind an e-commerce site. It's processing tons of small transactions all the time. That's your MySQLs and PostgreSQLs. On the other hand, you have OLAP, or online analytical processing systems. These are your giant data warehouses, like Redshift, BigQuery, and Snowflake. They're built for analyzing huge amounts of data to find business insights. You'll be working in both of these worlds, so you need to know the difference. All right, you've got your foundational toolkit. You've got your Python and SQL. Now it's time to get into the really meaty stuff. This section is about mastering the core engineering skills. This is the heart of the job. This is what makes a data engineer a data engineer. So the number one job of a data engineer is building data pipelines. And there are really 2 main ways to do it, ETL and ELT. The classic way is ETL. That stands for extract, transform, load. You pull the data out, you clean it up and change it before it gets to its final destination, and then you load it. But now, with super powerful data warehouses, the new hotness is ELT. That's extract, load, transform. You just dump all the raw data into the warehouse first, and then you use the warehouse's power to do all the transformations right there. You'll need to know both. Okay, but what happens when you're not dealing with a few thousand rows of data? What happens when you're hit with millions or even billions of records? Well, that little Python script you wrote is just going to choke and die. It's going to grind to a halt. That is the problem of big data. And the answer, the tool you need, is Apache Spark.
So how does Spark work? Well, you'll mainly use something called a data frame. Just picture a giant spreadsheet, but it's so big that it's spread across a whole bunch of computers at once. You basically give it a list of instructions. These are called transformations, like filter this or group that, but nothing actually happens until you give it a final command called an action, like count the rows or save the file. And the best part? You can control all of this using Python, thanks to a library called PySpark.
Now, pretty much all of this work today happens in the cloud. You've got three big players, AWS, Azure, and GCP. Here's my advice. Don't try to learn all three at once. Just pick one and go deep. If you pick AWS, which is the most popular, you'll be learning things like S3, Glue, and Redshift. If you go with Azure, you'll be in Data Lake and Data Factory, and with GCP, you'll get to know cloud storage and the amazing BigQuery. Just pick your champion and master its tools. Okay, you can learn all the theory in the world, but at the end of the day, employers want to know one thing. Can you actually build stuff? This brings us to the next section, building your project portfolio. This is how you prove you've got the skills. A good portfolio isn't optional, it's how you get the interview. For your first big project, you're going to build a classic end-to-end data pipeline. It's the perfect way to show you know the whole process. Step 1, use Python to pull some data from a public API. Step 2, clean that data up. Fix it, handle any missing pieces. Step 3, load that nice, clean data into a cloud data warehouse like Snowflake or BigQuery. Boom, that one project alone shows off a ton of skills. All right, for project number 2, we're going to level up and tackle big data. Your mission is to find a big public data set. And I mean big, like more than 10 million rows. Then you'll use PySpark to bring that data in and do a bunch of transformations on it. And for the final step, you'll save the processed data out to a cloud storage service like AWS S3. This project screams, I can handle data at scale. Okay, you've learned the skills, you've built the projects to prove it. You're ready. Now for the final stage of the quest, landing your first job. This is all about packaging yourself, nailing the interviews, and claiming that reward you've worked so hard for. Let's talk resume. That little summary at the top is prime real estate. You want something just like this. Why does this work? Because it hits all the keywords a recruiter is scanning for. ETL pipelines, cloud data systems, big data processing, and then it names the Holy Trinity, Spark, Python, and SQL. This tells them in about 5 seconds that you're the real deal. It's not just a summary, it's a statement of who you've become. Now for the interviews themselves, get ready to get your hands dirty. You are absolutely going to get live coding questions in both SQL and Python. They're going to ask you tough technical questions about how Spark works under the hood. And you can almost bet you'll get a system design question, where they'll say, okay, design a data pipeline for this problem. You have to practice these things over and over again. And that's it. That's your roadmap. We've laid it all out, from that first hello world in Python all the way to a job offer. The path is clear. The plan is set. The only real question left is the one you see right here. When does your journey begin?